probably all be asked.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for coming tonight. Laura, are we good to go on the video broadcast? Great. So thank you for being here. My name is Tyler Hudgens. I'm the chairman of STV INC, which is a 501c3 organization that was formed about 2 years ago. We'll tell more about the history of that. That's seeking incorporation for the Santan Valley area. And this is our way of being able to engage with the residents about this process and for you guys to go get your questions answered as well as get more information. And so that's really the goal tonight. I like to always start off with just a reminder in that all of us on the committee and that are a part of this incorporation process, we are normal people just like you. We all have families, some of us have kids, we all have jobs that we do. We don't get paid to do this, and so this has been a labor of love for over 2 years of volunteering our time to seek the good of our community and the flourishing of this community. And so we all are leaning into this, from that perspective, and I just want to share that as a reminder. And then we have a special guest tonight, so Mike Goodman is here with us tonight, so he'll share. So we're going to do a presentation to start this. I'm going to do a presentation, followed up by Mike Goodman. He's going to share, and then we'll do some Q&A. And then next week, our next one, July 8th, we will have some representatives from Maricopa who are going to come out. They recently incorporated the last area to incorporate in the state, and so they're going to come and talk about what that's been for them and how the meeting's going. So with that, we're going to do some introductions. If Adrian, you want to go first?
I'm Adrian Litton. I've been lived in Santan Valley for the past 6 years. I live up in Wayne Ranch, so I'm on the north end of Santan Valley. I first when I found out that Tyler was starting the incorporation, I went on the website. I was probably one of the first people to sign up to volunteer, and I got roped into being on the committee. And I've been basically making the maps and helping to draw the boundaries, worked with the surveyor for the meets and bounds to figure out where the town of Santan Valley should be. And that's been largely my role for about the past 2 years.
Hi, I'm Diane Combs. I live in Santan Valley. I live in Johnson Ranch. I've been here for 4 years. I'm retired. I am married. I have 2 children. I'm also a grandmother. My daughter just had our first grandchild. And I'm also a substitute teacher here in Santan Valley. I'm really passionate about this initiative. I've talked to many young families while we were collecting signatures for the petition. They want to live here, they want to work here, and they want to raise their families in Santan Valley. And it's important that we think about how that moves forward for them. And I'm happy to really be a part of the committee. It has been 2 years, but we're all very committed in really making this move forward. So thank you for coming.
My name's Jack Muller. I moved here about 5 years ago. I live with my lovely wife, who's in the audience, and we moved here because my oldest son and a couple of granddaughters and my wife's youngest brother and nieces and stuff all live here. So that's why we moved here, and I was just kind of passionate that we needed to become a city. We miss out on so many things that a city can get that the county can't, and so I was one of the ones that kind of first started talking about this. That's it.
name is Alan Quist. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Pierce Coleman. My firm focuses its practice area on representing cities and towns. We have about 20 different municipalities spread out across the state that we provide general counsel services to. I was approached about a year and a half ago by the committee to see if I'd be willing to assist in the effort to get incorporation on the ballot before the voters. And I've been excited to help out, donate my time to do that and to get this before the voters.
My name is Buchanan Davis. My wife and I, my wife's here, we live in Circle Cross Ranch. We are raising our 4 children here. We've been here since 2009, and we're glad to be here. Glad to be part of my day job as I work for SRP, and grateful to be part of this effort. We're doing it. We're for our children, and I've always believed in local control, and I think that is what a municipality will give us, a louder voice on the government that affects us on a day-to-day basis.
All right, so I just want to start with a story. There's this woman named Florence Chadwick. She was an elite swimmer, and what she's known for is swimming across the English Channel and then back across the English Channel, and then also between the channel for Catalina Island. And she was very skilled at what she did with swimming. I go 1 lap in the swimming pool and I'm exhausted. I couldn't imagine swimming across a large body of ocean. But there's this particular story I want to share where Florence was getting ready to go across a channel, and she was with her team, and they were preparing for her to enter the water, and this large fog came over the channel. And this fog was so thick that Florence was not able to see even a hand in front of her face. And so Florence said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this race. Her team was trying to say, hey, I don't know if this will be great with the fog. Are you sure you want to continue? She said, no, I'm going to do this. And so she gets in the water, starts swimming. Several hours into the swim, she says to her team, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And they're tailing her in a boat, and they say, hey, just keep going. You've got this. Keep going, keep going. And so she puts her head down. 15 hours in, she stops again and says, hey, I can't make it. You got to pull me out of this water. I'm not going to make it. And so they go ahead and pull her out of the water. She's devastated. She had worked so hard for this moment. And she's sitting in the boat as they are rowing forward. And the fog starts to lift. And Florence sees that the shore was only a half a mile away. When she gets to the shore, the reporters ask her and say, hey, what happened out there? You were almost there. And she said, I don't want to make excuses for myself. But if I would have been able to see that land, I promise you, I would have made it. I love this story because this incorporation effort is not the first incorporation effort to happen. There's been multiple attempts. There's been outside interests that have prevented Santan Valley from being able to incorporate over the last 15 years. Quite frankly, from our perspective, we should have incorporated 15 years ago. This area has suffered from our inability to have local leadership and local control over this area. And we are part of a group of people that have tried to do this. So there's been multiple incorporation committees that try to do this. There have been a lot of people who have worked really hard to see this get to where it is. And this is the first time that we as residents have the opportunity to vote to decide our future. This committee that came together to make this happen, we got together for one goal, and that was to give us, the voters, the choice to decide our future. Because we have never been given that choice to decide our future. And so for us, getting enough signatures, we got just under 11,000 signatures of the 6,000 that were required. We walk away with our heads held high no matter what happens on August 5th. because we were able to give this community a choice for its future. Now, we think that the most important thing for this future is incorporation. And a lot of this comes out of some concerns that we have had. There is excessive residential development with no cohesive urban plan. We have all this development happening, more and more people coming here, and we don't have a local body that can put together a master plan to make the decisions that are needed in order to manage this area. We are expected to be up to 300,000 people. This area is going to grow. We're currently over 100,000 people. We will be the largest incorporation ever to happen in state history, and one of the largest, if not the largest, in the country's history. This area is long overdue for this, and if we continue to have more and more people come here, we're going to continue to face even more and more problems. The problems that we face now are going to be even more exaggerated. And so, residential development is a big part of that. The other part is the loss of commercial land. And this is a really key piece. There's a lot of commercial land that has been rezoned to residential. We are represented by the county, and we have 5 supervisors who serve on the Board of Supervisors of Pinal County. One of them lives here in Santan Valley and knows this area, represents the majority of this area. And that individual is right here, Mike Goodman. Now, Mike has done his best in a lot of these situations, but sometimes he's getting outvoted. He's getting outvoted by other supervisors who live in other parts of the county. The county is the size of Connecticut. It's a large area. So you have supervisors, some live in Casa Grande or wherever, that are making decisions for our area, who don't live here, who don't know the implications of that. And so this commercial is important. We want to keep that commercial so we have more opportunities for people to work here, more opportunities for us to do things with our families here. It's vital. It's vital for the future town to have the commercial tax base that it needs. The other part is the strain on infrastructure. There's 100,000 people here. Probably 85 to 90% are commuting for jobs outside Santan Valley, which means during rush hour, all those people are hitting the roads at the same time. We have 2 main arteries to get in and out of Santan Valley. That's Ironwood and Hunt Highway. Those roads are congested. They're dangerous. It's stressful to drive on those roads because so many people are trying to get out, and they're driving 40, 60 minutes, 90 minutes to work. And so there's a strain of infrastructure. We want to see a transportation plan be put in place to start to manage our infrastructure so that we have the proper infrastructure to manage the amount of people that are here. Also, no places to come together. When my family moved here, we moved here for a home, a place to call home. And there's not really a place for us to gather together as a community. There's not a lot of places for us to go see people. There's not these gathering points in our community. And so we want to see things like that. We want to have parks. We want to have maybe a downtown area. We want to have things that are going to pull our community together where we can have local parades or events or whatever to really bind this community together. We don't want to be just a bunch of zip codes or homes. We want to be a people that call this place home and that are known by each other and know one another. It's when people know each other that we can take care of each other and we can be taken care of by other people. And so having places that we can gather to see one another is important. The 5th concern that we've had is insufficient public services for a population of our size. We're managed by the county that is, like I said earlier, the size of Connecticut. They are doing work all over the county in multiple cities and areas, and they're stretched thin. And so they also can't provide all the public services that 100,000 people need. They were never set up to manage an area this large. And so when we look at police and fire, we don't have enough officers on shift at one time. The way I understand it, what I've heard is 5 officers on shift at a time for 100,000 people. We have 3 or 4 fire stations when we should probably have 10 or 12. We don't have enough of those public services that are needed to manage this area appropriately. And then I already talked about this, so we'll go ahead and skip this, but the county can't continue to maintain this area. But the other thing I will say is, in my view, some of the concerns has been, well, my tax is going to go up. Taxes under the county will have to go up to continue to manage this area. And so this isn't just free for them. And so they're going to have to continue to maintain this area if we don't have incorporation. The seventh concern is public safety is understaffed, and we already talked about this, and we're needing a solution. We can start to move the ball forward to start to address some of these things and get the proper things in place. Here's some of the values that we think come with incorporation. The first one is the ability to elect our own elected officials who will be more responsive to our community needs. As I stated earlier, you have 5 supervisors, that only one of them lives in Santan Valley. If you incorporate, you're going to get 7 representatives who all live here, who all know this area, who are all invested in this community. And that's a big deal. This country was founded on no taxation without representation. We, through incorporation, will get the representation that we need to start to work through these issues. Number 2, more control over land use, zoning, and development. We will get a say in what the development looks like, what kind of zonings that we want in place, and that's an important thing. I'm personally tired of 20 car washes and dental offices and storage units on every corner. I don't know about you. They're everywhere. And right now, what I like to call is like vomit development. We just have development going everywhere. There's not a plan. There's not a master plan guiding this area. And so to be able to have that in place would be important. Tax revenue dollars already collected can be spent locally. You and me are all paying taxpayer money, and we'll talk about how this breaks down, what it looks like, in tens of millions of dollars that are not coming back here. Because we are not a municipality, our taxpayer money goes to fund other cities and towns throughout the state. So other cities and towns are getting a portion of that. So instead of those dollars going back here to address your roads and your needs, they're going to fund other areas. And so this is something that we think those dollars coming here and being invested in here are important. Number 4, retain our community character and identity. We are not a rural community anymore. That is changing. Whether we like it or not, it's changing. And it's going to continue to change. But we all moved here because there was something special about this area. There was something unique. There was a charm or something that drew us to it. And that, whatever that was for you, is eroding. And it will continue to do so. Especially when we get up to 300,000 people. If we want to be able to maintain the things that are really great about this area, we have to have a master plan to guide this area. We have to have a way to say, no, this is the identity of Santan Valley. And we need to preserve that by doing certain things and having certain initiatives that keep that identity and character in place. With a local municipality, we can do that. Number 5, authority over the levels of services. So we'll be able to work to determine, okay, what type of, how many officers do we want on the shift? How many fire stations do we think we need? We will be able to determine that ourselves, and we'll be able to do it locally. Instead of you having to drive down to Florence to try to talk to the county about issues and the services that you want, you'll have representatives here where you can drive 10 minutes away. Number 6, create a comprehensive urban and transportation plan to guide our community. So like I said, we'll be able to have that transportation plan in place, start to look at, okay, if we hit 300,000 people, what do we need to do? We need to punch Skyline through, or we need to add more arteries coming in and out of Santan Valley. Whatever that is, we can start to work through those things for ourselves. The next part, I want to tell you about the journey or the history of the Incorporation Committee. So we formed in April 2023, and we came together and we sent a notice to the Pinal County Board of Supervisors that we had an intention to seek incorporation in this area. And our heart as a committee is to love our neighbors and to love those next door to us, the communities around us. And part of that looks like drawing or putting together the map and doing 6 open houses where we invited the community to come meet with us, to look at the map and say, hey, what do you think of this map? This is just a context of our area, what we think these boundaries should look like possibly, and we want your feedback. We never wanted to include areas that were like adamantly opposed to incorporation. We're not trying to force people into this. And so we had those 6 open houses to provide input from the community, and we got some great input. We left out some rural parts on the north end and on the southwestern end of our map that were opposed to incorporation in the past. We left those out because, again, we're not trying to force people into this. The second thing is we started meeting with all the communities around us. So we met with the mayor, the city or town manager, and other staff from the following communities. We met with Queen Creek, we met with Florence, we met with Coolidge, we met with AJ, we met with Gilbert, we met with Mesa, we met with Chandler. And so that took a lot of work to arrange mayor schedules, town, city managers, their staff. And so that was a long process. But that was important for us to start having those conversations and to say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. We want to work with you guys. What does it look like to partnership in the future? What feedback do you guys have for us? And those were great meetings, we had great conversations. The next part of this, in this April 2023 to September 24 timeline, we didn't expect to happen. So once we had kind of locked in our map, or getting closer to locking in our map, the Arizona State Land Department reached out to us, and they asked us to remove all of the state land from our map, which represented about 30% of our map, and also represented the important commercial and industrial tax base we felt we needed as a town. And so we told them, no, we're not removing them out of our map, but we're going to have a conversation with you. And so we ended up meeting with them and started to negotiate what that would look like. And we came to a deal on, I'm going to show you a map here real quick, on some of the state land. And so, we don't use that one. You should put that. Sorry. Yeah, right here. So right here, it's about 3,200 acres. The state land department allowed us to keep it in the map. And then also there was a poor neighborhood here surrounded on all sides by state land. And then we removed all this green down here and on the edges from the map. But they were willing to annex in the future. So once we incorporate, these areas can come into the map. This one in particular is a very important piece with 4 railroads that are down there. So for our industrial tax base, to be able to annex that in the future will be important. And this 3,200 acres represents an opportunity for a lot of commercial, a downtown area that we can look to include. So that was the state land part. So back on the journey slide, once we had worked with the county and the state land department, so they ended up working to entitle those lands that I talked about. And so it's like a public process you have to go through. And so in order to give them time to do that process, we had to delay our effort. So we were originally aiming for the November 2024 election. We delayed it to August 5th, 2025 to give the county and the state time to make a deal on those 2 large pieces of land. Because for us, we weren't interested in just getting incorporation done for the sake of incorporating Santan Valley. We wanted to do it right. We wanted to do it the right way. And so by delaying, even though it cost us and our families more time to have to drive this thing forward, it was important because it was able to give us the land that was needed. And our map will look like Swiss cheese, and that would look great. So there's that. So then October 2024 to April 2025, there was a 6-month shot clock where we had to get 6,107 signatures. Really, we needed to get over 10,000 because you always want to have more than enough. Some people forget their registered to vote or whatever, and they're invalidated signatures. So we got just under 11,000 signatures, and we were able to qualify for the ballot. And this was a huge moment for us, as I said, because now an election has been called for the first time in Santan Valley's history. And so that was an exciting time. Now, May 2nd, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to schedule a special election on August 5th. And so that's where we all get to vote. And July 9th, the early ballots for that election will hit your mailbox. So you can vote by mail. There's also a couple locations where you can go in person and vote early. And then you do have to go to your actual precinct. So wherever your precinct is, you have to go vote there. You can't just pick any one. So that'll be on August 5th. And then I wanted to show, so one of the big things, the way we would fund our community to get started, there's about $50 million in state shared revenue, which is the money that I talked about earlier, that we all pay that go to other cities and towns throughout the state. Those dollars will come back here. And so you'll see on the screen, the largest number there is the city of Phoenix. So this number was shocking to me. It was shocking to the team to see that we give $10 million to the city of Phoenix every year from our taxpayer money. Tucson, $3.5 million, Mesa, $3.2 million, Maricopa, $3.2 million, Casa Grande, $2.8 million. And then in that blue box there, this is just the top 10. So outside that top 10, there's another $18 million that are going to fund other cities and towns. So those dollars are going to other places. Now, when we saw this Phoenix number, we reached out to former city council member Sal DeCiccio, who was kind of like a government watchdog, keeping the city of Phoenix accountable. And we asked him about this, and we asked for his support, and he gave us his endorsement of the Santan Valley Incorporation effort. And this is what he had to say. He said, as someone who has fought for transparency and fiscal responsibility in Phoenix, I can tell you this. It makes 0 sense for Santan Valley residents to send over $10 million of their tax dollars every year to a city that's miles away and doesn't represent them. That money should be building your roads, your parks, and your families, not funding the politics and priorities of Phoenix. It's time for Santan Valley to invest in itself. We have not only the supervisors, who we can't hold all of them accountable, but we can't hold the city of Phoenix's elected officials accountable for that $10 million and what they're spending. And if you take all the 91 cities and towns and you multiply that by 7 representatives for each, that's 600, 700 some odd representatives we can't hold accountable that are making decisions for our money. And so we think it's better served for this area and for our future if those dollars come back here and start to address the things that we all feel and experience every day as the problems for this area. And we can start to build a better future for our community. I think that's important. The next slide I want to show you is the map. So this is the boundary map. So on the very north side there is Pima Road and Ironwood, to give you some context. So the furthest north is go to Ironwood and Pima. And then on the west side is the Queen Creek town boundaries. On the south side is the southern part of Johnson Ranch and Copper Basin. And then on the east side is the Cap Canal that runs on the eastern side. So it's kind of a generic kind of overview. According to 2020 U.S. Census data, we are 91,000 residents. With the boom and the growth and all the movements happening, we're estimating it's over 100,000 people now. This is 36.4 square miles. So this is probably the smallest incorporation map of all the other incorporation efforts. And we think this is a really good map, and we feel like we've set it up for success. The next slide is our town revenue. So the state shared revenue that goes to fund those other cities and towns, they're drawn from 4 buckets. So when you pay taxes, there is the first bucket is your state income tax. So when you pay income tax, 18% of it, used to be 15%, goes into a pot of money. So that's number 1 bucket, so your income tax. Number 2 is your state sales tax. So anytime you buy something, there's 5.5 some odd percent. That goes into a bucket. And then your gas tax, so every time you pay gas tax, that goes into a bucket. And then also your vehicle registration tax goes in the bucket. And all those dollars, for every person in the state of Arizona, goes into one large bucket and then gets distributed to all the cities and towns with some crazy equation. I was never good at math, but they do some formula based on population and then send those dollars to those communities. And then as stated before, because we're not incorporated, those dollars can't come here, they go to other places. And so those are the 4 buckets that revenue comes from. Now, there's town revenue that the town can generate. And so some of that could be property taxes, although in our view, this is very unlikely. So property taxes could be levied by the city or town. However, it would have to go to an election. meaning a council couldn't just vote to pass property taxes. They would have to vote to pass property taxes, and then you would have to vote to tax yourselves, and then there would be an election after that, and you'd vote them all out. Because that's a very unpopular thing. Nobody likes property taxes. I personally would vote against any property taxes. But the Arizona League of Cities and Towns have put together in their manual this statement that I think is also helpful. It says, a common concern is that with incorporation, residents will see an automatic increase in their property taxes. This is not necessarily the case. Out of the 16 towns incorporated between 1980 and 2010, only 2 have initiated a primary property tax and 2 have adopted a secondary property tax. 45 of the 91 cities and towns have a property tax. Most cities and towns rely primarily on sales tax revenue to fund their operations. And so we don't think this is a likely case. Sales tax revenue. So there is a possibility that a sales tax for the city or town, actually would be a town, could be passed. So anytime you buy something, there would be another 1% to 2.5% that would probably be on your bill. Our argument is you are, in most cases, already paying this. So every time you have to go into Queen Creek or other places to go buy your groceries or go, to your restaurant of choice, because we don't have any sit-down restaurants here, you pay their sales tax. And from my understanding, we make up 30% of their sales tax revenue. And so we're paying that, and it's going to Queen Creek. But we can have businesses here, and those dollars come here, and they stay here. And so this is a possibility. Another thing is business and occupational license taxes, utility franchise tax, so development fees. So when developers come, and there's usually these fees that are like one-time fees that go to the county currently. Those can be used here. And then fines and forfeitures. The other thing that we think is important is this is 100,000 people that are underrepresented. And so as we talk to a lot of the cities and towns around us, a lot of them are like, hey, it would be really nice to have a regional partner in Santan Valley. When we have issues like the SR-24, so Governor Hobbs took away a lot of the funding for the SR-24, which is a critical freeway to come out here. If we had a community of 7 elected officials, we would have 100,000 people's voice that could be added to this. So right now we don't have that. And so that's important. And so the next slide we'll show you is this was released last week by ADOT. They're looking to add a passenger rail that will come from Phoenix all the way down to Tucson that runs through Queen Creek and parts of Santan Valley. And so, the state doesn't have money to fund our freeway, but they have money to fund a future passenger train. And so these are issues that will be similar to this, that we can have our representatives advocate for this area in the future, and we think that's important. The next set of slides I'm going to go through is concerns that we've heard from the community as we've gone through this process. So we have been listening to what you, the residents, have been saying, and so some of these things we want to address up front. The first one I want to address is there is some people that are advocating that nothing will change with incorporation. This is simply not true. So on the screen here, I started a business in 2013, and when I started this business, I had just bought my house, and I didn't have a whole lot of furniture because I spent it all on buying the house. But I had this desk, and I had a computer, and I had my brain. That's all I had. That's all I started with. And that's how I started my business, was working at this desk. Now, when I started that business, I didn't expect the moment that I filed with the Arizona Corporation Commission that I was going to have a skyscraper with my logo and 1,000 employees. Like, that would have been crazy if I would have thought that. But I had to start somewhere. As stated earlier, we should have started 15 years ago. Unfortunately, we were prevented from being able to do that. But we need to start right now, today, for our future, and start working towards that. So the next slide, the next picture here, after a few years of being in my business, I had an office, and I had employees, and I had more clients. Like, things over time started to come together. And so if we incorporate, we can start to move this ball forward. right now, our football is sitting on the 1 yard line, and it has been for a long time. We have the opportunity to move that ball down the field and go and score this forward for our community. And so that's the first thing. The other concern is the increase in taxes. So there's concern that taxes will automatically increase with incorporation. That is not the case. We are voting on incorporation. And so the new council will initially have a set budget to work with coming from the state shared revenue. So they're going to get $50 million that will come in, and they're going to have to live within the budget that they have. For the first year or two, it gets started. Remember, we're not building the skyscraper with the logo, we're getting things moving. And then there'll be new initiatives that may require a tax increase, will take time, and they'll be executed under sharp public scrutiny. So any public tax increase is going to require a public process where we will all get to engage in that dialogue and have representatives address some of these concerns. And so any tax increase would require a public hearing, and then the new property taxes, as stated earlier, would require a public vote. The next concern is that there would be an unelected council. So if this is successful, on August 5th, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors will be required to appoint 7 individuals to the first council. There's been some concern that those people are unelected, and this is a standard process with incorporation. So when a community incorporates, you just had an election, you can't have an election the next day to get your representatives. So for the first year, you get an appointed council who will serve, and their job, their function, is to get that government up and running in place. So you're going to have a location maybe. You are going to have a town manager, so start to search and interview candidates, like things like that to get things in place. And so that council will serve for the first year, and then in August 2026, I believe, there will be an actual election where a 4-term and 2-term council seats will be voted upon. And so they will serve as the transition government for that first year. The first initial council will not be paid, and so there's a state law that says a council can't vote to raise their pay to $100,000. If they raise pay, it has to go to the next council when they get elected. And so those first people will not get paid for what they do. And then the council, like I said, we go to the next one. So the next concern is that we wouldn't have enough funds. As stated before, we're going to have $50 million at least that we will be able to use. We went ahead and put together a sheet looking at the essential costs that are required. So there's certain requirements that we are required as a municipality to fund. For example, we have to have some sort of a police force. That is required for the municipality. We are not required to have fire service. And so there's certain things. You're required to have a city or town manager. There's certain things that we have to put in place. Some have claimed that we've put together a budget, and I want to be very clear. We have never put a budget together as the Incorporation Committee. We are the Incorporation Committee who is responsible for driving the election. We are not the town of Santan Valley. Meaning, if I sit up here and tell you, here's going to be the future budget of Santan Valley, I would be lying to you. And so, in a sense of integrity and good conscience, we have not put together a budget because it would be a futile exercise and it would not be honest to you guys. And so what we have put together is to say, let's prove that we are viable. Some have had concerns that town of Santan Valley would go to funds. We wouldn't have enough money. Well, we have $50 million, and of the things that we're required to pay for, we estimate about $25 million is what are required things we have to pay for. All of those things we have padded, so we've added another 20-25% on top of. So we have to have some sort, for example, we have to have a physical location. We don't need to have a fancy town hall. It could be a house, it could be, we rent a space for, whatever a year. Just a place for you as the community to go and see your town clerk. We have to have a town clerk. But after that $25 million, we still have another about $25 million left over. And so if any of those numbers are off for some reason, or there's something else that we need to do, we have $25 million to still be able to utilize and tap into. And again, this is just to get us started for the first year or two. The next concern is we don't have enough room for retail. So as I stated earlier, it was very important for us to make sure we got that state land. And so that is an area that we are looking at as the opportunity to bring this retail. Places for you to go dine with your family and stay here locally and have some of those places that are gathering points, to have parks and those sort of things. And so we've included that in our map, and so we have that in place. And so we think that's important. The next concern is that we are making promises without a plan. We've worked very hard to present a future for Santan Valley, a future vision. We want to reimagine Santan Valley into what does it look like for this area to flourish. And we've moved forward Incorporation, but we've made sure that we haven't made promises that can't be kept. And so Incorporation gives us the ability to make those decisions and for us to work with our local municipality to decide what we want in that plan and in that future. So for instance, the way I understand it is Queen Creek, part of their general plan they put together to guide their decision making is they want to cap their area at about 150,000 residents. And because of that, that constrains in the things that they will and will not do. For example, they will not, they've stated this many times, that they're not going to annex Santan Valley. Because again, they don't want to be over 150,000 people. So bringing in all these homes is not something they want to do. And so for us, we get the same opportunity with the town of Santan Valley to adopt a general plan and other transportation plans and things like that to make decisions for this area and to guide this future. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Goodman, who was so nice to join us tonight. So thank you.
Mic up to Mike. I hope you're okay if I stand up. I was getting a little crampy there. Sorry I'm late. We've got one of our daughters has got cancer. She's been in the hospital, so I was tending to family needs. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Maybe you were going like that. That's why I said, put that baby up there. I moved here in 1980. I was a newlywed, and I took a job with a LDS church, and they were building a dairy on Germain Road, what is now Meridian. Many of you still remember that dairy. It's no longer there now. Germain Road didn't go all the way through. In 87, we moved back up to where she was from Snowflake. I got into the insurance business. Big change, right? Dealing with cows, dealing with people. They both still make you cuss no matter what. I'll just tell you that straight out. We were up there for several years. She passed away in 91. I remarried. We moved to Sierra Vista. From Sierra Vista, we moved back here. Between my wife and I, and this usually takes the air out of the room. We have 12 kids, and yes, we chose that. 32 grandkids, soon to be 33. And so, and probably 7 of our kids live in the general area of Santan Valley. They're within 15 minutes of mom and dad. And we have almost that many grandkids that are local as well. So I have a vested interest in this. We moved back here in 2009 is when we moved back. I farmed just over here off of Gansel, right across the street from the Poston Butte High School. So, and then in 2016, I have an older brother that came to me and said, you really need to get into politics. And I'm going, what? I never thought I'd do this. And so in 2016, I ran for the county supervisor, and I've been in that position since then. We no longer farm in that general vicinity. But the thing that was during those time of years that I was farming, driving and plowing the fields and coming across, hearing my grandkids and my kids come home, and they'd come to the house on Sunday, and always complaining about the traffic, Johnson Utilities, our utilities. And it was constant. And here I am driving and farming that area along Skyline, which is supposed to be Skyline, all the way through to Gansel. And I'm thinking to myself, why did they stop? Why did they stop? Then they started to build Gansel, and they took it to the end, and there was a road to nowhere, 6 lanes. Everybody remember that? Well, some of you that have been here for a while? It dead end. It didn't continue on like it does now to Hunt Highway. And that was another, and we would go down there, and I hear the chatter from everybody. It's the road to nowhere. And then, so I decided to put my hat in the ring. Little did I know what I was stepping into. And it wasn't no cow pie. I'll tell you that right now. It was a lot more complex than I could have possibly imagined. There was over 125,000 people just in my district alone. I went from where the 24 is now, it was just imaginary line back then, to the south. All the way in, took in the foothills, all the way up to Anthem, and back, and around Magic Ranch, Magna Ranch. All of that was my region. That was my district. Huge. And I was wondering, how am I going to wrap my head around this? And so, several years ago, after I got into this, a good friend of mine was when Ace Hardware first opened up. I thought he was a good friend of mine. We were working on Ocotillo, getting that opened up. And you know how bad the traffic is whenever we open these roads up, when we're under construction. They get so backed up. I walk in, and Sterling Levitt, he's a big guy, much bigger than I am, and his son is just as big, and he comes walking up, and without a hesitation, he puts his arm around me, and he yells out, "Hey everybody, this is your Pinal County Supervisor. If you got any problems with the roads, he's the guy." And then he walked off. 2 hours later, I get a phone call from my wife. "Where you at?" "I'm still here. I'm stuck." Everybody in that room was asking questions. What are we going to do? What are you doing about it? Can you imagine one guy lives here amongst all of you. One guy. You have Supervisor Miller, lives in Casa Grande. Supervisor DiTiello lives in Maricopa, the city of Maricopa. Supervisor Surrey, in the city of Apache Junction. Then you have Supervisor McClure. He's way over in Southbrook. So you can see how widespread and how pulled apart we all are. And so a lot of the decisions that Tyler was making, that he brought up, has been pretty much one guy going about it. I'll give you an example, our utility company. It was, whenever I get phone calls from the school saying that we're out of water, Florida School District, or I get a neighborhood, Morningside neighborhood. Many of you know that. It's just off of Hunt Highway. And they've got crap coming up in their street, bubbling up. Third world conditions. And then on top of that, who's in charge of all of that? It's the Arizona Corporation Commission. They have 5 guys on that Corporation Commission, and those 5 guys don't even live anywhere near Santan Valley. They expected the local utility to be on an honor system. So many of you that have lived here for that time frame, way back in those days, knows what I'm talking about. And so we went down that path. I had to convince my board of supervisors, and again, one guy living under those conditions, and the other 4 not. I eventually got 2 others to side with me to move things forward with the Arizona Corporation Commission. Then, before long, we got the other 2 involved. So my point is, if this had been a municipality 15 years ago, a municipality has more power than the county, even the Arizona Corporation Commission. It would have been able to put some rules down and regulations and require that local utility to do certain things. Thank goodness we got the year, we got change. Okay? Now, I beg to differ. When you said 30% of our money goes to the town of Queen Creek, I will tell you, until we opened up Home Depot here, there was over 50 to 60% of our tax dollars went to the town of Queen Creek. And that's only been in the last 4 to 5 years that that's opened up. So, and I would still say it's probably 35, 40% because they've got all the movie theaters, they've got everything else that we go to, and the sit-down restaurants, the places that you pay after you eat. How many of you are tired of that? Paying before you eat? Where's the standing ovation on that? I guess everybody's happy with Taco Bell. There you go, I got it.
We'll give you that. We want to sit down restaurants.
You know, and they're coming slowly. What's interesting is that when we would meet with various commercial developers, it wasn't until Home Depot, we invited them to come here, and we drove them around. We showed them the kind of developments that were going on, that they were going, what are we doing? Do you know that with their first year, they projected $45 million in sales that first year? They more than doubled that number in first year.
Are you talking about Home Depot?
The Home Depot that's here now. Because they're here locally. They're closer for us. Biggest thing is, the population's here. Let's be real. We're far bigger than any of the cities outside of Mesa and Chandler and Gilbert than any other community out this on the east side. That's how big and massive we are. The numbers are there. Now, these guys cannot put together a budget. They cannot do that. But they can give projections, and that's what they do. It will be up to that first council. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the process, what I'm going to push for when it comes to appointing the first 7 council members. Hopefully my board members will listen to me. All 5 of us are going to be making determination who that first 7 is going to be. I'm going to ask that resumes be submitted. Their ideas, their plans for what they would like to see this area become. And I think those are the things that we as a board of supervisors need to be evaluating and looking at to determine, because that first 7 core are going to be important. The second thing is if you're not happy with those 7 guys or ladies, you can boot them off. You can kick them off the island. That's the beauty of it. I love what the former council member from the city of Phoenix said. That's been my biggest argument, is that there is no representation here, but there is a lot of taxation. And that's a problem. Do you know how many phone calls we get for parks and for different recreation facilities out this way? I was sitting with a group of developers several years ago, and we were talking about the potential of parks. That's it. We had several builders there and several other landowners, large mass landowners. State Land Department was there as well. And the issue and the question about incorporation came up. And one of those builders, and he's a very well-known builder throughout the entire state of Arizona, asked the question, why would I want to support an incorporation effort? I have all the bureaucracy that I want to deal with the county. I don't want any more. I just sat back in my chair. I was a little bit taken back by what he said, but I had one answer to him, and that was, you guys, all of you at this table, have done a pretty good job of building a good product at a reasonable price for people to want to come here. The problem I have on my side of the table is our model is work, live, and play. This is a bed and breakfast community. At that time, over 85% of our population was leaving to go to work. Can you imagine how congested our roads back then before we opened up Meridian Road and the other roads and widened Ironwood, and then Queen Creek did what they did with Ellsworth Road? Hunt Highway was only 2 lanes back in that day. And so, I said, I've got 6 high schools, 6 at that time. There are now 7. 7 high schools. The average family size is 3.2. 3.2, sorry, I went overboard. 3.2. 7 high schools. We don't have one community pool for these kids that are on their swim teams to participate in. They are taking a bus, driving outside of Santan Valley, Pinal County, to go to to go to Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, not even Queen Creek. That's where they were going just to train, let alone compete. 7 high schools. And he sat back in his chair and he made a comment that was comforting to me. He said, we've really done a great job in our own communities, but we've done a terrible job from a broader perspective, an overall regional plan. And he was right about that. We're growing faster. Well, they split my area this last go-around in 2020. Now you have 3 supervisors that my area is split up in 3 different ways. But I'm still the only one that lives here. I'm still the only one. But there's 3 supervisors that represent parts of the foothills, Copper Basin to the further south, Anthem, all that, and then myself. That's it. Just 3 supervisors. So keep that in mind. I don't think there's much more to add to what you're saying. I would love it. I'm not even in the planning area. I'm in one of those ranchettes that they chose to keep out. Okay? I'm going to be in a county island. So, I think there's been somebody say, you want to be mayor? Heavens forbid. I'm already considered the mayor and the city council all under one guy. I'm the guy that you see at a store. I'm the guy that you chew out all the time. I'm the guy that you call my office and say, what about this? What about this? We got these road problems. We got this road problem. What are you going to do about it, Goodman? And so, you know, if you're happy with status quo, and they say there's not going to be any change, and if you're happy with that, then you know what your answer is going to be on the ballot. For me, my kids will ask me all the time, what do we do, Dad? I'm going to say, move out of my basement. You have the ability now to make your own choice in life. You've never had that. Over all the years this area has become developed and moved in the direction it has, you have an opportunity to decide. You've never had that. Ever. Now you get to vote. If you want it or not. It's your call. That's what it is. And so, get out and exercise that right. Whether it's no or whether it's yes. Whatever you decide, we as a county will back. If you decide you want to become a city, we're going to make sure that all the tools are provided to you to be successful for being a city. We're going to make sure of that. We have an office right... Where's my office? Oh, just over here. We have an office that we built with some kind of an anticipation that this area would grow up and become self-sustaining. And we could help them by providing them some office space. We've been working with our sheriff's department. What County Creek did when they first became incorporated, they contracted with Maricopa County Sheriff's Department to provide police protection. They contracted with Rural Metro to provide fire protection. Those things are all possible. And you know, so many of you, and I have really, really good friends in the town of Creek. I love the Snaff family. We've got one of them back here in the back. Good family. They're the ones that, Dan and Barney, they're the ones that came here and settled this area. They started farming, the Sossamans, and the Nevets. And this area has become what it's become. Now you have a choice. And it's these individuals right here that brought it to that level. To where now you get to say yay or nay. So it's up to you. I know what I'm telling my kids. Take responsibility. Take ownership of your own destination. That's what the American dream is all about. Go do it. Thank you. And God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. So we will now move into Q&A. If you still have some questions that you'd like to send, give them to Laura. We only have one microphone, so just be patient with us tonight as we're passing this around. And so, Laura, if you want to go ahead and...
Do you want me to just give you the questions and you can...
Sure.
That might be easier.
Actually, this is a great question for Mike. Who currently is responsible for bringing retail, community development to municipalities? Does Pinal County have a person or team exclusively dedicated to bringing retail or commercial development to Santan Valley, or do they focus on just the entire county?
So that's a great question. And let me tell you, one of my biggest arguments with some of the municipalities that are out there in our county that have had questions about this area becoming its own community, its own entity, mainly because what you saw was they're going to get, their share of revenues are going to be reduced substantially in some cases. And so to me, it's short-sighted thinking, okay? If we had more retail outlets here. If we had more, because of the population, if we had that kind of stuff here, we could add back to this big pool of the shared revenue. And so when I came into office, that was one thing that we had a really good economic development director. His name was Tim Knable. He passed away about 6 years ago. Tim was dynamic, but he was always the big picture. He was always looking for the big projects to bring employments here. So companies like Lucid and companies like that that are over in Casa Grande area, and then the big warehouse, Tractor Supply, their main warehouse is in there, and Walmart, all of that was put in that area. And so, and why? It's because they have two major freeways, Interstate 8, Interstate 10, and they have the rail system. Well, Casa Grande did a big thing of developing their commercial area, and they've been successful at that. So when we, the county, we started to look at this years ago. Whenever I came on board, when I moved back here in 2009, there was an effort in 2010, it fell. 2012, another effort, it fell. 2016, 17, I was county supervisor, I was trying to support it, and it fell. They didn't even get enough signatures. So it couldn't even be put on a ballot. So in the meantime, we as a county have been moving forward, trying to bring employment centers here and everything else of that nature, so that 85% of our population doesn't leave the area anymore. We need a more quality of life for our family members. Just think how many hours mom or dad is on the road just to go to work. So when LG made their announcement, they were looking at an area that Queen Creek came to us, and we worked together with Queen Creek to secure LG. So that's a huge win for this region, for this area. They're going to have probably over 7,000 employees when it's all said and done. Right now, we have an economic development director he's not actively on the retail side. My office has been the one that's trying to move along in that direction. The problem with it is we don't have large enough land swipes that are entitled with commercial. And we're slowly depleting that through these apartment complexes that are coming in. And there's only one guy that's making the decision saying, no, we gotta stop, we gotta stop. So to answer your question,
On that? If we incorporate, can we vote on that?
that'll be between you and your council members. All that will be in their hands. I can't say on the way the structure is set up now. There's why we're a democracy. Well, we're a republic, not a democracy. So, and yes, sir, in the back.
Well, to answer that, the point is that that'll be part of the master plan that we're allowed to.
There you go. That will be up to what they're going to do. The county, yes, we do. But keep in mind, our county guy works with all the other cities to help bring employment here and bring retail. Does that help?
Just got a couple more. Piggybacking off of that, one of the questions was, will Incorporation slow down the rate of apartments being built on every corner? The answer is, if you work with your town council, they can exert some control through zoning on what goes into there, and absolutely they can vote to retain commercial in a space and not vote on apartment if they so choose. On the same, this one specifically said for you, Supervisor, but as the population continues to grow and the demands of Santan Valley increases, if Santan Valley does not incorporate, do you foresee Pinal County taxes increasing to offset the costs of services in Santan Valley?
You know, there will have to be our taxes that we charge that you pay. They go into the general fund, and they're not specific to a region, to an area. So to answer that question, no, not specifically to the Santan Valley area. But if you want parks and you want those type of amenities, this is the best way to go. They probably won't get there right off the bat, but they can get there over time. And so but no, we can't, we will not. In fact, we just reduced the property tax to we voted on Wednesday. We vote Wednesday. We're going from 3.45 down to 3.36 on your property tax. We're going to reduce it again. Every year that I've been in the office, we've reduced it from 4% down to 3.36. And it looks like we're going to get a unanimous vote on that. And so, no, your property tax will only be increased.
Can I ask a question off of that? Just a follow-up real quick. Has the reduction in property taxes have tied in at all with the amount of development fees you get? And if we become incorporated, I mean, this is different, I guess, in the aspect that if we incorporate, you no longer would get those development fees, but the city would, or the town would get those development fees. Is that correct?
So the question is, the county has impact fees for all these developments that are happening right now. Part of it is there's different schedules of that fee. One of them is transportation. And so they have to do the improvements of their development, all the road improvements directly in front of them. Plus, they pay into our impact fees, which covers a lot of the major roads that were being built right now. So the improvements on Combs Road and Schneff Road right now, that's coming from those impact fees and our HERF funds. Those are the two areas that we're paying for those projects. So to answer your question, and the other thing is, we do not use your property tax dollars to pay for roads. We do not do that. We made a decision a long time ago that if we're going to build new roads or add to it, it's going to be the developer. It's going to be on the back of the new construction and those that are coming into this area through the sales tax.
Looks like we have a question that seems to have some confusion in it. So the initial $50 million looks like it will fund basic operation at most for 2 years. Then sales tax has to cover the cost. How long will it take to get the sales tax in place? We need 25 to 50 million for all the services.
Yeah, so the state shared revenue is a portion, it's 18% of income tax, 18% of state sales tax, and it's a portion of the highway usage revenue fund, the HERF, that's the gas tax, and vehicle license fees. That's every year. So that $50 million that we're talking about, that's not $50 million we get and then we're done. That's $50 million of taxes we pay every year that goes to other municipalities that would be coming back to us every single year.
Next question is, what chances are there for the state land to be granted for large retail space? So I've seen some, so the 3,200 acres that you saw previously on the map that's being included in the state land, the county went through that entitlement process with a mixed use area. So it'll be a combination of things from the commercial, and I've seen that they're looking at having some big box retail go there, as well as all kinds of different types of commercial, civic, education. So it's going to be a large variety of options, but big box retail is one of the things that was included to go down there.
We've got a question here. I'm concerned about voter turnout outside of social media. Is there any sort of get out the vote activity by any group? This group is working on trying to get the word out some of the signs that we have August 5th date on it. The county has also sent out a notice to all registered voters that there is an August 5th election. And then of course, if you get your ballot, it will have, if you're on the early ballot list, there will be the date and the instructions there. So the county is working on noticing, they have and will continue to notice every registered voter, and then we will continue to do what we can to get the word out. And then it's up to you to also to let your neighbors know.
By the way, the signs, you guys did a good job. Yeah.
So how soon will there be a Santan Valley Unified School District? I'll answer real quick and others can chime in. The municipality actually, the school districts are independent districts with their own governing board, and they do not align necessarily with the municipalities. The municipality does not govern school districts in the state of Arizona. So sometimes you see, Mesa Unified School District or Queen Creek Unified School District. Queen Creek Unified School District actually goes into Mesa, so it's not aligned with municipalities. And Chandler goes into Gilbert, and Gilbert goes into other municipalities. So there's really not an alignment there between the municipality and the school district. Did I hit that one all right? Let's see. Can anyone speak to the land within the map owned by the state? How can we be sure the new town can zone and plan and get this open land to get the kind of retail we need? Kind of to the question that was already asked. That's exactly what the municipality can do. They can open up a process where they can plan and organize and determine what they want into that space. And it could include, now that the entitlements that the county has worked on, it could include retail space, commercial, industrial, restaurants, things of that nature.
I think this is the last question I have up here. It says, this actually sounds like an Ace Hardware question. When are the temporary traffic lights installed at Ocotillo and Schnepp Road going to be made permanent?
Ocotillo and Schnepp.
Ocotillo and Schnepp.
How many like the lights now? I mean, we just did that not long ago.
Part of the problem that we have is that a signal runs about $500,000. Big bucks. And then, because of the demand, they're usually behind. We've been behind on some of these lights for almost 2 years. The one on Combs and Schnepp, 2 years. And now we finally got it all lit up, right? And we have some improvements that we have to do there at Ocotillo and Schnepp. And so they're going to be working on those pieces here pretty shortly. How many of you watch my little segment with Chuck? What's up, Chuck? You watch it? We do a drive around and we talk about all the different roads. And Schnepp Road, I think, is scheduled to start in that corner mid next year to really get it under control. I mean, remember we shut it down for 4 days, so we put a turn lane and all that. Now there's some apartments going on Kenworthy and Ocotillo. What they're going to be doing, those apartments, they have to put those big tall power lines underground because the county and they will do their portion to widen Ocotillo 5 lanes. And many of you don't know it, but the county has been working on and will continue. When the new municipality will be working with them to bring an expressway following the canal all the way down to Arizona Farms Road. That'll help relieve traffic over here. So we've been doing our thing, trying to stay ahead of it, but we're not. That's why with the incorporation effort, that just gives more validity to this area. And with another 100,000 people in the ear of the governor, and the other entities, the state itself, for when it comes to shared revenues or even pushing more money into the development out here, As far as road construction, that'll have a lot more say. Does that answer your question?
There's a question about a couple of, I think we've answered this, but how likely is it that property tax will be increased? Will there be a sales tax? And what will the extra money from the state be used for? In the presentation, we talked through this, that very few in the last 20 years, 30, 40 years, very few of the communities who've been incorporated have enacted a property tax. You need a vote of the people to enact that. Tyler talked about how we pay a sales tax now every time we shop in Queen Creek. I would imagine that a sales tax would probably be, in my opinion, would probably be likely, potentially, to help fund certain services if those services are desired by the people. Another question on here was, why was incorporation rejected in the past? And we've also talked about this. It actually has never come to a vote before because of the way the laws were, and the past incorporation efforts have done a really good job at moving the ball forward. But before, any community around Santan Valley within 6 miles could veto the effort, and they did. They exerted that. There were also some other provisions in the law that allowed large landowners and whatnot to take the effort, and that happened. So we are building upon the efforts of past efforts, and they've done a really good job and paved the way, and the law has been changed in the state, and this is the first time we'll actually have a chance to vote on incorporation. So it did not pass because people were voting it down. They never had that opportunity to vote on it in the past. And then, what percentage of Santan Valley land has not already been designated for specific development? We have the map, Tyler, and it's that 3,200 acres in the middle that's ripe for development from the state lands, and we also, there are still some corners in some different areas that are underdeveloped. And then, as Tyler described, on the peripheral on the map, on the margins, on the edges, there is absolutely a lot of potential for growth in Santan Valley. State lands could be annexed as that land goes to auction.
So,
State land is the largest landowner in our community. They're the largest landowner. And from what we've seen in the past, they're anxious to start to sell that property. And, right now, it's the 5 supervisors that have been calling the shots. When somebody comes in, they want to put more houses on there, it's been the 5 supervisors. What they're getting at is, with these pieces that are here, that are within state land, and these guys come in, more than likely, they're going to be annexed, and want to be annexed, into the new municipality. They did it with the town of Queen Creek, and they did it with the town of Queen Creek because they offered them some amenities, water, sewer. And that's what could happen here with some of these large land masses. And then your local entity, and I keep pointing here, I don't mean to, guys, I don't want to make you feel obligated to put your application in or not. But the bottom line is it'll be the new municipality that will determine a lot of these things. A lot of these questions you're asking for in the future, and it will be up to that new city council what and where to go.
So we're out of questions there. I saw one here. There's another hand. We can do a few more, and then we'll close up.
How long after incorporate would we get our own post office?
that's up to the government, federal government. They've been wanting to put one out here, but we've yet to see it. We've even given them several locations, but we've yet to see it. They keep saying that they're going to come out here, but they're not here.
For the record, that would be an area where that could potentially fit in this. It would fit in that land use within this area.
For the record, I think the federal government will be a lot slower than local government. A lot of things, so here we go.
Thank you. And Mr. Goodman, thank you for being here. One of the things I learned from you in the town hall that you had, and more of what came up tonight, is the questions about the state land. And I've been talking with a lot of neighbors and a lot of people on social media, making a lot of the points I learned from you and from some of the good people here. And one of the pushbacks I get when it comes to discussion about some of the great things that you all have just said about the state land, the 3,200 acres, and the potential of annex, one of the pushbacks I get that I don't know how to answer is, you know, none of that matters. All it's going to come down to is the state's going to go to the highest bidder, and the town won't even have a chance. I'm really interested in your perspective as probably the most learned person in the room about how you would respond to that criticism or that pushback.
I'm happy to. So part of whenever we've been having discussions with State Land Department, when we did Plan Santan several years ago, some of you participated in that, we came up with a regional plan for this area, for this region, and State Land was part of that discussion. And so when these guys, when it started looking like this thing was going to happen, that it would be on a ballot, when that got closer, State Land came to us and said, we're nervous. Well, our mandate is to get the highest value for our land. We want to have entitlements. And it just so happened that the lady that was in charge of the State Land Department at that time was a good friend of ours. And the biggest thing that we had in our favor was she saw how big, massive, and all the rooftops here, but no commercial. And she was a big proponent of putting those entitlements on those pieces of property that State Land has. So what that means, so all of this property right here, and you got the railroad track right here that runs through here. They wanted to capitalize and utilize this piece of property and give entitlements, but they wanted those entitlements to be flexible enough for developers and buyers to buy it and go from there. And she always felt, with this population that we have here, we do not have enough to sustain this region. So that all started this conversation. So all of the entitlements here that are there now has to stay within those entitlements. No matter who pays top dollar, they get whatever the entitlement is now. And I'm telling you, it's a mixed-use type agreement. For instance, everything around here where these pivots are at right now by Incorporation, they're looking at that and wanting that to be some type of a light industrial area, employment center, because of the railroads. And so they're looking at, very similar to what they've done in Casa Grande. Chandler's done an exceptional job of doing that as well. Mesa has no property tax. Chandler has no property tax. And I think it's Gilbert that just went, well, no, not Gilbert yet. There's one other city that don't have any property tax. Why? It's because they get all the revenue from the commercial stuff, retail, sales. And that is why State Land came in and said, we want to get these entitlements so they can't be changed, no matter who pays the most. And they can't be changed unless that council decides to change it. Well, they answer to you, the voters.
Thank you.
It'd be great if, for sales tax, we could get a Costco.
Costco would be nice, yeah.
Costco would help.
You got a Winco coming?
I don't think
Winco's good.
I don't think Costco will generate as much sales tax as the pork shop. I mean, that place is I love that place. I spent a lot of money there. Okay, any other questions? You have one more question?
I do. Can you talk about the north-south corridor in relationship to Incorporation?
You guys understand that?
It's outside of the incorporation. It's further to the east,
Okay.
that north-south freeway, when that begins. That's one of the reasons why we as a county, because it's so far down the road, we are coming off of the 24 and following the canal. And coming on the west side of the canal. So here's the canal right here. Right here. So where's the 24? Up there? There's Jermaine. So where you see right there, that's going to be I call it the expressway, CAP expressway. And that's what's going to come down here and tie in all of this. Just so you guys know, there's property here that already has entitlements. That's why it was so vital to get the entitlements for that state land. Because the entitlements here already, there's 30,000 more homes. Now you're seeing a big part of them being built around right now. But there's 30,000 all the way down to Arizona, Orange Road.
Probably do one more question. I'm going to wrap it up. You in the back here.
A lot of you know me, I'm Jeannie Stockton, and it's more or less I'm going to make a couple of comments instead of questions. I've been real active on social media, and I've been banned on a couple of Facebook pages because they don't want to hear common sense comments. But we have to ask, why do people living outside of the map area, why are they fighting this? Why are they taking our voice away? Our vote has been suppressed for so long. It's time for us to have the right to vote on our destiny. Are they really looking out for us? Are they looking out for their own personal gain? The other thing I'd like to say, taxes. I'm sure this group, I'm sure these people, I'm sure the people in our community are going to be 100% behind taxes being based on need, not greed. So any tax increases that are going to be offered up, you're going to have to vote on them. The sales tax, it doesn't have to be voted on, but I'm sure the people that are going to be running the community is going to take a long look at the people they're going to be affecting. One really good thing you guys need to keep in mind, the city council meetings are usually in the evening. They're not Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning and you can't make it. So, Supervisor Goodman and the other four, they really do appreciate us coming down there. But it's real hard for working people to make those meetings. Two of the people that ran for Board of Supervisors that are against Incorporation, I guarantee you, if they had won the election, they would be pushing for Incorporation just like Supervisor Goodman is. His office is inundated with questions, concerns, complaints that should be handled at a town council level, not at a county level. And the rezoning that's going on, as long as we're in an unincorporated area, and they're doing this rezoning for Pinell County, they're going to have to take into consideration that a lot of us live in HOAs, and maybe they're going to say you can only have 2 chickens. So the rural people really should allow us or encourage us to incorporate so we can differentiate between the needs in their property as opposed to the needs in our properties. And any one of you that have known me for a little while, I am pro-incorporation. I am going to vote yes. I already have a guy that volunteered to cancel my vote out. So please get people to vote yes so my vote does matter. Thanks.
All right. Oh, did you say something else?
I need to say something. I looked over at the attorney and said, do I need to? Yeah, probably should. He's had my back for a lot of years anyway, because he left the county to go do back in the private sector. I'm not here as the county supervisor, Mike Goodman. I'm here as a resident in this region
Mike Goodman. And as a father, and as a husband, and as a grandfather. That's why I'm here tonight. So, I just want to make sure that's very, very, very clear. Okay? And so, thank you.
Can we all give Mike Goodman a round of applause? And thank you all for coming tonight. We will be around. If you want to come talk to us, we'd love to get to know you. And next week, July 8th, we'll be back. And so we'll have some representatives from Maricopa that will be speaking with us and perhaps some other special guests. So see you then, July 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you.